Risa Hontiveros is a health and women's rights advocate, a proud activist, and the Senator of the Philippines, wherein she continues to push for legislation that combats social injustice, inequality, and the fight for stronger gender rights against discrimination. She currently serves in the 18th Congress as the chairperson of the Committee on Women, Children, and Family Relations. As gender inequality and misogyny existed in history, Hontiveros raised up her voice to push for fighting these issues. Her acts make a better place, especially for the women and members of LGBT, and she can be considered as a role model for the people, especially the youth.
Senator Risa Hontiveros.
Senator Risa Hontiveros.
Senator Risa Hontiveros.
Risa Hontiveros is born on the 24th of February 1966 in Manila. She is a known activist, community leader, journalist, and politician in our country. She was raised by her father, Ramon Hontiveros, along with her sister, Pia Hontiveros, who is also a known television host and broadcast journalist. Academic-wise, she graduated cum laude from Ateneo de Manila University. During this period, she was actively involved in student councils in which she had advocacies pertaining to peace and justice. Given this background, it comes as no surprise that Hontiveros has her own political stances in accordance with her advocacies. But before her Senate career began, she worked as a television journalist and an activist first. She worked for several television networks like the International Broadcasting Corporation, GMA Network News, as well as the ABS-CBN News. As an activist, she has gained reputation and been associated with numerous organizations and movements. For instance, back in early up to late 1990s, she had been involved in organizations that advocated for peace. Some of these include Coalition for Peace, National Peace Conference, and Government Panel for Peace Talks with the National Democratic Front.
Besides being an activist and a television journalist, Hontiveros ran for senator in the year 2016 and won.
Risa Hontiveros, maganda ang laban. Maganda ang laban.
She made it to the 9th place of the top 12 most voted senators in the elections. She continues to fight for social injustice and equality and gender rights. She is part of the alliance that refilled the SOGI Equality Bill, which covers the protections of the rights of the LGBT community. Moreover, she and the Akbayan party list filled the Students' Rights and Welfare Bill, or STRAW, which generally promotes the rights of the students. She seeks long-term solutions and raises awareness on social issues that are common in society, such as discrimination, injustice, and harassment. And although the bills were turned down, Hontiveros still never gives up on her advocacy on equality and justice.
Among the many awards, achievements, and accomplishments Risa Hontiveros has attained in her lifetime, three particular facets of her life shine through and showcase just how interesting, meaningful, and worth emulating her life is. And as evidenced by her activities organizing a campaign against the Bataan nuclear power plant, she was already very aware of various social political issues during the time and how they affected various communities. Following that is her career as a public servant, wherein she authored laws that expanded maternity leave, established a national mental health policy, and formally outlawed catcalling, which have benefited various marginalized groups in the Philippines. Lastly, her respect for higher authority but intolerance for any form of corruption and immoral actions is considered worth emulating.
Risa Hontiveros introduced the STRAW Act in Congress, which recognizes the state's responsibility to protect students' rights and freedoms. This bill gives us students protection toward censorship and empowers us to voice out our opinions through journalism and protests.
Understanding the self expounds on the relationship between oneself and their environment. The phrase, "we are a product of our circumstances," can explain Rita Hontiveros' narrative, as she was born into a family that was well within the media. It is the same force that drove her into becoming a journalist within herself, which in turn motivated her into joining the Philippine politics. Hontiveros recognizes this account and privilege that circumstances can bring, and henceforth began her journey on enhancing the conditions that a modern-day Filipino may experience. She realizes the importance of cultivating a setting away from abuse and corruption can help various individuals in their journey of growth and development. She introduces a catalyst of change, herself, and inspires the idea that our circumstances are also a product of our actions. It is not a one-way street. We have the means to do better in order to live better. Hontiveros presents a large-scale example, fighting for the rights of the masses, but the manifestations of realizing your own self and behavior magnifies your role in society.
The life lessons we could learn from Risa Hontiveros would first be how we should find out what we love most, be excellent in it, and figure out how that could be manifested to service. The next lesson will be how we should dedicate ourselves to human rights. Through finding out what we love the most and manifesting it to service, emphasizes on how each and every one of us could bring great purpose in every action and decision we do. Whether this will be through one's engagement in education, extracurricular activities, and the like. As part of the youth, this remains to be relevant as corruption, inequality, and abuse is apparent in our society for several decades, which is why it is our mission to put an end to this by applying what Risa Hontiveros said. Meanwhile, the second lesson, dedicating oneself to human rights, relates itself to being sympathetic and showing concern to those who are unfortunate. Holding Hontiveros as an example of practicing sympathy and compassion for fellow Filipinos who fall victim to the many abuses of present time gives realization as to how these communities must be fought for and that help could be offered in any way possible for as long as zeal for service is being upheld. Truly, with the basis of Hontiveros' achievements, encouragement, and drive, many of the youth would come to realize how significant it is to be exposed to various environments in order to realize one's purpose in society and how he or she could continuously contribute to change and experience immense growth and self-development that would allow us to understand ourselves much better.